Let's get started. Hari Om, everyone. Welcome to our session on Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita. Om. 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 Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavatam Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Kratitam Purana Muninam Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitam Vridavarshini Bhagavati Ashtadashadhyayini Ambatva Manusandadhami Bhagavad Gita Bhavatveshini Namostute Vyasa Vishala Buddhe Pullara Vindayata Patra Nedra Yena Dvaya Bharata Taila Purnaha Prajvalito Jnanamaya Pradipaha Sarvopanishado Gavaha Dogdha Gopalanandanaha Partho Vatsasudhir Bhokta Dugdam Geetamritam Mahat Vasude Vasutam Devam Kamsa Chanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Sarvadharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Vraja Aham Tva Sarva Papebhyaha Mokshayishyami Ma Shuchaha. So we are on the 5th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, which is titled Karma Sannyasa Yoga. And we saw that this chapter is also as important as everything else. But I think the beauty about this particular chapter is you really understand the beginning of how Jnana Yoga has been given as a sadhana for us. And the Jnana Yoga is shown in the very first shloka itself with the thing as sannyasam, where Krishna asks, what is really, sannyasam yoga, and why can't I really become a sannyasi? So that word by itself shows the introduction of Jnana Yoga as a great sadhana for all of us, and also the sadhana which takes us to the ultimate liberation or moksha. So as always, let's start with the reflection time here. And today, actually, I have a question, actually 2 questions for both of us, for all of us here. And that is, really, what are the signs of progress of a human being? And what are the signs of a maturity of a human being? This definitely has bearing. Now, it seems like, why are we asking this question here in the midst of something as profound as Jnana Yoga, correct? But there is, of course, the connection. As always, my introduction, I like to connect it to the relevance to us, as well as the relevance to what the shlokas are trying to tell us here. So I would like to hear from you. How do you look at this question? And is there really a difference between the two?
Hari Om. I think there is a difference between the two. What are the signs of progress of a human being from a very elementary, from a BMI standpoint? I would say that the very fact that we realize there is something that is as simple, there is BMI and there is Atman, that is where we start. So the progress or the starting point is just the realization that Atman and BMI, we are not the BMI, we are the Atman. That realization itself is maturity. But so that's how I would, that's my analysis of your question.
Very great. How about others? What do you see?
Hari Om, Sunitha ji.
Hari Om, Anand.
In another chapter, I believe, the sloka says some of the qualities which are like, goes like amanitvam, adambitvam, ahimsa, saucham, so they are like multiple qualities. So I think if one has these qualities, that shows the signs of the progress, and I will say also the maturity. That's nice. My thinking.
Great, thank you. 13th chapter, beautiful set of 20 values, which talks about all the way from humility, all the way up to the recognition of oneself as the Atman. Any other thoughts here? I guess you all are, already you have realized what this question is trying to say. This is the reason why we are studying the scriptures, right? Because the scriptures are really the mirror by which we can really understand who we are. And today we look at our sign of progress as a human being is, materialism, right? And that is how we look at the progress really of a human being. And we, for whatever it is worth, I guess, in the beginning itself, we push our children to choose careers which can give you material prosperity, because we always say, well, even if you want to be an artist, make sure that you have a second job which will support you, right? So somehow that materialism gets ingrained in our psyche. But then this is again the signs of maturity of a human being, and that is where I'm coming to. Is ultimately the sign of a maturity is how much am where I'm going from me myself to embracing the world also is very important, and I try to be part of the world. And ultimately, I recognize that ultimately there is nothing but that Brahman, which is the whole world. So that is the sign of maturity of a human being, where I start to work on that aspect of who am I today as an individual, and from there on, moving on to recognizing having a holistic view of life. And at the end of the day, it's not even just holistic view of life, we have to go even beyond that. So that is the ultimate state of maturity, and that is what is sannyasam. Sannyasam is that ultimate aspect of that maturity, if you will. By use of the word maturity, I think it's, I'm really not giving the whole picture, but it is important for us to recognize from where am I to where I need to go. So this is the whole, yeah, please, Vijay.
Can I say that at one point, I had a likes and dislikes. I was not accepting people around the way they are behaving, the way they are doing, or not even accepting whatever comes across me. As long as I don't get upset with these things now, is that a kind of a measure to myself that, yes, I'm maturing a little bit, taking a baby step?
Fantastic. Very, very nice question. And that is definitely one of the first steps, where recognizing I have likes and dislikes. So, many people may not even recognize that they do have, they may say that, well, that is what makes me as a human being. I have to have my likes and dislikes. How can you tell me that I should not have it? I love this. I enjoy it. This is my life. This is the one life I have. I'm going to do it. So that more, most of us are sometimes in that category. But moving on to recognizing, okay, here are the likes and dislikes I have. I recognize that is, if I indulge too much in it, that is a weakness for me. So the recognition of that is the thing. The third part is where I'm actually going beyond it. So you hit the nail on the head. So sannyasam sometimes starts with the preparatory stage of renunciation. And that preparatory stage of renunciation is where I start to renounce this aspect of who I'm not. So I'm not those likes and dislikes. Today, when we take all these personality tests, like the Myers-Briggs or the insights or colors and everything, they want you to identify yourself with that aspect of it. Fine, we can do that. But that is only when I take on my role. So my likes and dislikes are part of that role. So, but then I am beyond that. As Suvarna beautifully put it, I'm not the BMI. At the BMI level, I have those likes and dislikes.
Right.
But that is the first step. So Vijay, you hit the nail on the head, But so this is the thing though. How can I even come to a conclusion that I have to go beyond likes and dislikes? Why should I do that? Many people may ask this. Our own children, in fact, there's the shloka, which we'll be doing it next week, which is shloka number 22, which really addresses that question, which is that shloka talks about giving up likes and dislikes. And our children may say, but why? I have this beautiful job in Wall Street. I'm the VP of Goldman Sachs or whatever, and I'm making so much of money and everything. Why can't I indulge in all this? Why is Bhagavad Gita saying this? So the shloka 22 really addresses, even for a youngster, how exactly this likes and dislikes need to be thought of. We need to recognize that we are a human being with likes and dislikes, but the key point, and I repeat, the key point is, it's not that I have to give up my likes and dislikes. No, I have to be a master of them. I have to be a master. I recognize I have this likes and dislikes, but I will not allow that to take over me. Like the thing which, beautiful quote in Kindle Life, actually, eat, but let not the world eat you.
Right.
Our likes and dislikes is about that. Go ahead.
It's like not to be the slave of a likes and then master of something else.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So whether you come across your likes, accept it. Even if you come across a dislike, still accept it. So acceptance is a one, which should be that. That will be the first step, going from body, mind, and intellect, moving away from it, taking a baby step.
Exactly. You got it. And so the renunciation, which the sannyasa word is actually not about external renunciation. To some extent, you can practice external renunciation, which is what we all try to do. We try to, as we get to the second Vanaprastha stage, we try to give up on our needs, wants. We give up on our wants and we focus on only what I need, right? We do that. That is all external renunciation, mind you, that we need to remember. But more important is this internal renunciation. Internally, can I be happy wherever I am? I'm not dependent upon the external. Whatever comes externally, I will enjoy it, but I'm not dependent upon them. That's the renunciation that really this chapter is talking about. And that is why I brought up this question and just having the discussion. So the easiest way to look at this is, this example of the movie screen and the projection of the movie screen, So in and through every aspect of the movie that is being projected on that screen, on that big screen here, our focus most of the time when I'm seeing a movie, is actually about all the drama that is happening on the screen. When did we ever think that in every minute atom of whatever drama is going on, what is there is actually the music, the movie screen. Without the movie screen, there is no movie at all, right? So too, our focus slowly has to change from recognizing that I am not part of this whole drama or the movie that is going on, but I am that movie screen. That's the part of it which needs to be looked into. So the movie screen, without the movie screen, nothing can happen. So too, I am that Atman, without which nothing can happen. And we've given those examples before of the electricity and the bulb and the fan and the thing. It's so many different examples. So that's the idea. Another aspect of this is that the movie screen is totally unattached. The movie screen doesn't care what is happening on the screen. It just says, use me and then do whatever you want, but I am not involved. There is a kind of a detachment, asanga. We call this word asanga. Sanga means attachment, asanga means non-attachment. So the movie screen is totally unattached to the movie that is being played. And that is again the swarupa, that is the nature of that Atman. And that is where we need to go to also, is to recognize that Atman is unattached. That Atman has no relation at all with the movie that is being played. And that is really truly the detachment or the sannyasa that is being explained. And in that 17th verse, where we saw last week, we actually saw that how this person, this sannyasi, this sage, is able to look at the whole world in so many different in ways that Vidya Vinay Sampanne Brahmane Gavi Hastini, that shloka, or even before that. So all these are showing that, are pointing towards the sign of maturity or the sign of progress within ourselves, where I'm able to accept the world for what it is. So, and from this shlokas 18 to 23, where we are seeing this, they are essentially showing this milestones in progress of human being, from recognizing who I am as bound. Last week I gave that picture of a bound person, recognizing that I'm not bound, but I'm actually free. I'm asanga, just like the screen of this movie theater. So in shloka number 18, we saw that Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gavi Hastini Shuni Cha Iva Shvapake. So Shuni Cha Iva Shvapake Cha Panditaha Samadarshinaha. So one of the signs of maturity which we can hope to achieve is how a sage, a Panditaha Samadarshinaha, he has his equal vision, he or she has his equal vision on somebody who is extremely well learned, a Brahmana, one endowed with learning and humility. So a Brahmana who is not only extremely well learned, but who is also very humble. And then a cow, a Gavi, a Hastini, an elephant, and then Shuni, which is a dog, and then Shvapaka, who is a dog eater, or you would call that as an outcast here. Basically trying to say that, again, as sometimes we see this also happening within ourselves, well, somebody who is extremely learned, we would just go and bow down at their feet and have complete namaskar and everything. But we walk out of a temple and we see somebody like a beggar, we immediately we don't want to see the beggar at all, So that difference How can I just get out of that? I may say that, yes, everybody is one, all that, and I have to see them, but it doesn't penetrate within myself. And the reason is because I have not gotten the knowledge. And knowledge doesn't mean that getting a lot of degrees and everything, but knowledge is really that which allows me to take away this ignorance from me. And that ignorance within myself is sometimes so heavy that, I need to be constantly having these shastras within me to help me, as to guide me, to take me forward. So that is why the shloka is so beautiful, because it is trying to say how to have that equal vision, to have an equal vision. But of course, this one just tells you that you need to have an equal vision towards this Brahmana, towards a Brahmana. And it could be sometimes taken as, somebody who is extremely learned, and of course a Brahmana, or a Brahmana who is extremely learned, of humble, Gavi, Hastini, Shuni, and so this is what we saw this. So there is this beautiful story about how a rich man, a rich man's son. This is actually in our Swami Chinmayananda's commentary. You can read in the chapter. I really liked it. This rich man's son, after the death of his father, he obviously was brought up and pampered like anything. So when his father died, he just squandered away all the wealth. And then he had nothing in the house. And then he realized that in the puja room, there is this beautiful idols of Sri Rama, Lakshmana, Sita, and Hanuman. So he says, well, I'll keep Sri Rama, but maybe I'll let go of Hanumanji. And Hanumanji is big and heavy, and there's a lot of gold in that statue. Let me just take this statue to the goldsmith. So he takes it to the goldsmith, who for the goldsmith, all he sees is gold there. So he just takes the thing, he smashes that Hanuman idol into pieces, tells him this is the amount of gold, and he gives him the money. And this young boy is happy and he goes away. But the money doesn't last long. And then he comes back. And this time he brings Lakshmana's idol. And lo and behold, the goldsmith does the same thing. He takes the idol, smashes into pieces, and tells him how much of gold and gives him the money. And again, the boy goes back. The money doesn't last long. He gets into trouble again. And now what he has to do, he takes the Rama's idol. He takes Rama's idol and he takes it to the goldsmith. And the goldsmith, as soon as he gets it, he starts doing the same thing. He breaks it into pieces and everything. And then the gold that is there in it is not as much as Hanuman's. So this guy protests. He says, how come you've taken Lord Rama? You should be giving me 5 times more the money for this piece of this idol. But then the goldsmith says, you know what, sir, I did not purchase your Sri Rama or Hanuman or Lakshman. I just purchased the gold that you gave me. That's all I see it. So for the goldsmith, he had this equal vision. He didn't care whether it was Hanumanji or Lakshmanji or Sri Rama. Everything was just gold, gold, and gold. So that's the vision by which the Samadarshi, the Panditaha, they see it. Now, somebody looking at, this shloka may say, well, how is that really possible? How can really all of us really look at everybody that way? Matter of fact, even in our smritis. So, Bhagavad Gita is considered a Shruti, correct? But then there is a Shruti called Gautama Smriti, where in that Smriti it says that, well, whoever, who has this equal vision and all that, that is not possible at all. That is really not the right vision. If you have to live in this world, you're not, you can't just transact with such people. It is impossible that you can, the person has really not understood the world at all. And matter of fact, I mean, even we may say, right, at work, in the modern world, how can I really treat everyone equal? Somebody who's working hard, can I give him the same bonus as somebody who's not working hard? I have to treat people differently. That would be how we would look at it too. So, nothing has really changed as far as how the world was before and now. So Bhagwan Shankaracharya ji, he has taken that example in his Bhashya. He says this, in Gautama Smriti, some people may say this, which of course we can relate to today's world too, saying that, this is the case. And so in the world, there is this sense contradictions. When I'm transacting, of course, this is the case, but at the level of the highest level, one has to have that oneness. So we see this like, when somebody has a lot of knowledge, even if the person is younger, we actually go down to them, right? So there is that contradiction about all this, which we see that. And perfect example is the story of Akbar and Birbal, once you had Birbal and King Akbar, they were walking down, just walking on the road in the gardens, and Birbal, he sees a tulsi plant, and he does immediately, namaskar to the tulsi plant. And of course, King Akbar doesn't understand that. Birbal is, of course, Hindu, and Akbar is a Muslim, right? So Akbar doesn't understand that ritual of this Hindu ritual. So he says, ha, you saying namaskar to a plant, why do you do that? So Birbal said, it's like my mother, but Birbal, Akbar goes and he plucks the plant away, and, they walk around. Then pretty soon they come across, a plant which has got so much amount of thorns in it. It's, like a poison ivy plants. So again, Birbal does namaskar to the plant, and Akbar again, it's like, what? You're doing again namaskar to the plant? Again, he goes there and he plucks it away, and immediately his body is full of this itch and he can't even bear it. So Birbal says, I told you, that's my father, So he says, a tulsi plant is my mother, this is my father. So Akbar is like, now what do I do, He says, well, I'll take you to my mother, And he takes it to a cow which is standing close by. And he takes the cow dung and he smears on Akbar's body all over. And he says, well, this is my mother. This is Go Mata, he says Go Mata. So, our scriptures teach us about how divinity is everywhere. And you can see the divinity in and through, whether it's a plant or a being or anything. And, of course, today also in this day and age, we celebrate the Earth Day and everything, which also shows, where we are trying to, do our pay respect to Earth. But when you tell why we are praying to the Earth, because of this aspect of seeing divinity, it makes much more sense. Otherwise, I prayed, I celebrate Earth Day on a particular day, and then another day I just dump all garbage, right? So that is not the way it is. But Bhagavad Gita, through these scriptures, we really recognize how that Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gavi Hastini Shuni Chaiva Shvapakicha Panditaha Samadarshina, how to have an equal vision. So this is all well and good. Great, I have to see a vision. That is true. But what does that really get me? Tell me, what does it get? We are all, of course, creatures of seeing what is in it for me sometimes. So here in shloka number 19, we see how this samadarshinaha, the samya word, very important. The samya word, which can mean both equanimity and equipoise. So having that equanimity and having that equipoise, what does that get me? Where does that lead me to? Tell me about it. So that is what we see here in the next shloka, which is, by a wise person, when he interacts with all kinds of people, he definitely understands few things. Simple thing is, when you have a criminal, somebody who has been put in the jail, right? Most of us would look at such a person as, oh my God, he's committed so much amount of theft or murder or anything. He has so much that he has to work upon, but what serves him right, that is why he is there, right? So that's how most of us would look at people who are different from us. We tend to judge people and we tend to look at this. But then a wise person with this vision recognizes that the fault is not in the person. Every person has their own weaknesses and everything, but I, as a person, need to recognize how to go beyond all those weaknesses and really see that divinity. And that will take me to my next rung of progress, or the next level of maturity that we saw earlier. Ihaiva taijita sargaha. Ihaiva taijita sargaha. Yesham samye sthitam manaha. Yesham samye sthitam manaha. Nirdosham hi samam brahma. Nirdosham hi samam brahma. Tasmad brahmani te sthitaha. Tasmad brahmani te sthitaha. So the person who has an equal vision, it says, iha iva taihi jita sargaha. For such a person, by having that equal vision and by seeing everybody having that same divinity which is in herself or himself, for such a person, iha iva, here itself, taihi, for those people, jitaha, that is, a person has conquered, has become victorious. By what? Because the whole creation, which is where we experience our joys and sorrows, that creation itself for that person doesn't exist. What does that mean? Does it mean that the person only sees a blank thing everywhere? No, that is not what he sees. He definitely sees the same things which we all see. However, he sees that divinity which is nirdosham. That's the key word there, nirdosham. Nir is again, the upasarga which is given. Nirdosha. Dosha means defects. So nirdosham, without defects. He sees that Brahman, which is actually totally without any of these defects. Totally no differences at all. And he sees that Brahman, which is completely pure, sinless, everything. And by doing that, he gets established in Brahman. So he basically just sees Brahman everywhere. So even in this world, he has one, that creation. And who is that? The one who has completely an equanimity, samye, stitam. Stitam is really well established, like the pole we put in the ground, you know. This person, that pole within himself is that equanimity, because he's established in that, and he sees that samam Brahma, that completely harmonious, you know, like keko mayam. If an ant gets into, you know, one cake, what does it see? It sees keko cake everywhere, right? So too, this person, everywhere, he sees only that Brahman. And therefore, he says, tasmat, therefore, Brahmani stitaha, te stitaha. So he is totally established in Brahman. So he has completely conquered himself in that area. So this is really the tasmat Brahmani te stitaha. That's the answer which is raised in the previous one, in the previous question. You know, when we ask this question, how is it really possible for such a person to rest completely? Because this person, he recognizes the Brahman in everyone, and he does whatever needs to be done. He is, you know, it's not that he is going to treat everybody equally and give everyone the same thing. No, that is not how it is to be understood. He just sees Brahman everyone, treats everyone with the love and respect. However, what has to be done will need to be done, because Gautama Smriti addresses a transactional level. So this is a thing that he wants to make sure that it is not misunderstood. These shlokas should not be misunderstood, but it is supposed to give us the guidelines on how to recognize, you know, the mark of a human being is that love and respect that I see, give everybody, but at the same time, whatever needs to be done has to be done. So that thing is important to be noted. And he says, you know, the person sees that Brahman which is without any defects, and he completely understands that this is how we need to be live in this world. Another thing which the shloka is trying to also tell us is that iha iva taihi jita sargaha, which indicates that no matter what we do, again, this is the sign of progress that I was trying to say. You know, I just saw a news article 3 days ago about how we have now one Indian guy from India who is now in the top three wealthiest people in the world. You know, I think his name is what, Gautam something, not no, I forgot. Adani. His name is
Adani. Yes.
Adani, yeah. So, I mean, look how, you know, the minute we hear the word Adani, who is now in the top three along with Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos, right? Wow, we say that this is progress. We have conquered, you know, we are going up the ladder. We are being recognized. Yes, we do need that. No question about it, you know. And this is another thing actually, which as, you know, as much as people progress in the ladder, there are, you know, they also do a lot of, they go through not renunciation the way like we look at it in Bhagavad Gita, but they have sacrificed a lot to get to wherever they are, right? But that's not where I'm getting with here. My point about it is that we can be a great mass, we can conquer so much amount of things within us, and we may recognize all these people who are rising up as having, you know, having made that great progress. But this shloka, for example, iha iva taihi jita sargaha, we can actually be an even greater conqueror or even greater progressor in our path where I'm able to get over all this, like Vijay said, likes and dislikes, starting with that. From there on, recognizing this likes and dislikes are nothing but in this world, in this creation. What is this creation? This creation is nothing but something which is also part of me. It is that Brahman which is in the form of all this creation. And I need to recognize in and through every human being, everything. It's like, the cookie dough, we take this cookie dough and we make all these shapes, animals, lions and lion and giraffe and everything and human being, So if a child goes to a cookie store and says, no, I need only the giraffe, the mother knows what it is. Ultimately, it's nothing but sugar and flour and everything. But, the child doesn't know that. So our goal here is to be a conqueror of that aspect within myself, which is creating all these likes and dislikes. What is it that is within me that I can shatter that? The knowledge it is that knowledge. Do I see the cookie dough and everything, or do I see those animals in those cookies? I know it is cookie dough. Why can't I just hold on to that? And in my vision, that is in my vision. But see, this is the beauty about this. I have to, when I'm transacting the world, I know what I need to do with, but in my vision, I have to have that samadarshana. That is the beauty which the shloka is really driving. Eva taihi jitta sargaha, by recognizing that aspect of, and it is only such a person who has removed all the flaws in his own character is a true emperor of the world. That's the thing. And we often make this mistake that, all bodies should be treated alike because Brahman is equal in them. Yes, Brahman is equal in them, but we have to also recognize that where we have to make a point or say something, we need to actually say that. And this is the aspect of progress that we need to make. So then in shloka number 20th, Bhagavan says you should conquer the world and by really keeping your mind in that equanimity, right? So in this, yeah, go ahead, Geeta.
In the previous one, doesn't that happen? Doesn't that maturity comes with age automatically?
No, it doesn't come with age. One may say that experience.
Maybe with reading scriptures and all that, with the age and doing both together, will that maturity come?
Well, we all come with a baggage of vasanas, correct? We don't know. So the thing is that just because somebody is old, and which is what, what we do is, do everybody who are old, do they all are extremely mature? No, they're not.
No.
You need to have this knowledge, and if this knowledge is given even ahead to a youngster before he's getting to this job in Wall Street and all that stuff, where he goes to cutthroat competition kind of thing. If you can give that knowledge to such a person will become great leaders in society, where such a person will treat the janitor the same as how he's going to treat the president of the company, or in his mind, he has a vision, and he's so comfortable within himself or herself, recognizing that I'm the same as in the other person. That security by itself will give you so much amount of peace and, help us with mental health and so many different things. That vision is the most important thing at the ultimate level, which for mental health, I think. So to answer your question, is it age related or experience? No. You know?
Hariyo, sorry, am I interrupting?
No.
Adi Shankaracharya, he attained this realization, so to say, at the age of 7 or 5 or 7, and he wrote Bhaja Govindam. The whole thing was, because the way I remember the story is, I might be a little wrong. He saw person memorizing the alphabets or memorizing the rules of the grammar. And that was the reason for Bhaja Govindam. Like, at this age, why are you memorizing those? There are so much more that you need to learn. What is the point of memorizing the rules of the language at this point in life? I think from that, it's so obvious. I mean, the way I look at it is, age has nothing to do with anything. We see young prodigies that we call prodigies that have they are done so well in music or math or science. You know, they've done so much, they've done so great in it. So I think it is a combination of blessings of Saraswati Devi and having the, being able to it's just, and most of the time I think it's hard work on the part of our individual.
Hard work, smart work, I would say, smartly, working smartly with a spiritual bent of mind. And the smartly is the spiritual, understanding spirituality for what it is and not being tied to dogmas. That is also important. So this next shloka now talks about how the sage with the equal vision is able to lives in this world. We have seen many of these shlokas before, like Sthita Prajna and everything. This is another one which is similar to the Sthita Prajna shloka, but here now with that knowledge, how does this person be able to appreciate this even more? Na prakrishyet priyam prapya, na prakrishyet priyam prapya, no dvijet prapya cha priyam, no dvijet prapya cha priyam, sthira buddhirasam mudaha, sthira buddhirasam mudaha, Brahmavid Brahmani Stitaha, Brahmavid Brahmani Stitaha. So, such a person, that is the knower of Brahman, Brahmavid, who is the knower of Brahman, or the person who recognizes that Atman, that sage, that sannyasi, Brahmavid, na prakrishyet. Na prafriyat priyam prapya, which means that the person having gained priyam prapya, even when he gains something which is very dear to him, something which is very conducive, if you want, priyam, which is conducive, having gained, he is na prakrishyet. He doesn't get overjoyed. He doesn't get totally, he doesn't jump off the roof, or he doesn't, he doesn't become so elated, or, he doesn't just go to the bar or anything, let's have a champagne, let's just do that. No, he doesn't. He's totally, totally content. He's not at all, he's just, he takes it in his stride. And na udvichet prapya cha apriyam. So too, if something doesn't go the way it, he had expected it to go, he doesn't get depressed. He doesn't get agitated. Udvijet. I just love this word. udvijed, because in chapter 12, there is one beautiful shloka where also he describes about this Brahman, where he says, what is it? I took it out here. Where is that? Yasma no udvijate lokaha, loka no udvijate chayaha. A person neither is agitated nor does he agitate others. I was just reminded of that shloka and I wanted to mention this here. Na udvijat prapya cha apriyam. He doesn't become depressed or anything, but he is sthira buddhihi. He is completely, totally in control of himself, because he recognizes buddhi, which is such an important, from an intellect level, he recognizes what came to him and what is not coming to him. All that is so temporary. Today it is there, tomorrow it's not there. Just like in an ocean, you are standing in the ocean and you see the waves coming. Sometimes you have a small wave, sometimes you have a big wave. But ultimately, they're all nothing but water, right? So you just don't know what you're going to face every single day. And so he is, at the intellectual, he recognizes that there is really, these are all just temporary, and he's completely okay with it. Sthira buddhi, asammudaha. He has absolutely no delusion. He's completely, asammudaha, totally, he doesn't get agitated or anything. And here, it's like the difference between, so does that mean, so maybe this is the way we can look at it. Suppose, I'm traveling from here to US, I'm coming to Detroit. I mean, not me. There is, let's assume a jnani is traveling from India to US. And somewhere along the way, his passport gets picked or something like that. Okay. Now, do you think this one say, oh, it's okay, that person needed a passport, that is fine? No, he's not going to say that. He will be equally, he will take it upon himself. He will do whatever is needed in order to get another new passport right away. He will do everything that is needed at that point. He's not going to just sit and say, or, suppose, somebody gets COVID and says, oh, pound, that virus, the virus wanted me to go through this. It is my prarabdha. No, you better take care of that immediately. So this is very important for us to recognize from Bhagavad Gita, from priyam and apriyam has to be understood in the proper way. That is what he's trying to say here. So such a person is sthira buddhi, has a completely strong intellect, and who is not crazy, who is asammudaha. He doesn't have he doesn't live in a world of illusion, and he's Brahmavid, Brahmani Sthitaha. He is completely, he's established in that Brahman. So this can be, this you could look at it as in three different ways. So in Jnana Yoga, so we said, this part of it really talks about the Jnana Yoga, right? So in Jnana Yoga, the sadhanas are Shravanam, Mananam, and Nididhyasanam, correct? And so Shravanam gives you that ability to think properly. So the intellect becomes firm. Intellect really is able to recognize the reality of things. Okay. And then asammudaha. Asammudaha is to show the mananam aspect of it. Mananam is where, we get all these doubts. Is that really true? Is Bhagavad Gita really telling me the right thing? Like, people may misunderstand Bhagavad Gita and say that, na priyam prapya, na udvijay prapya. So I should not be, I should always be happy. I should not grieve. I should not do this. No. So asammudaha. Mudaha is a deluded person who thinks like that. But here he says that sage or jnani is asammudaha, is completely, his doubts are, cleared completely. And brahmavid brahmani sitaha is that aspect of nididhyasanam. Nididhyasanam, or that ultimate meditation where the person has completely understood his true nature and recognized that he is not that ego who is the doer and the enjoyer of karmas. So that's what he's trying to show. That sthira buddhi is really not a person who is, sthira buddhi means, somebody gets a thought to do something and he's totally, he holds on to the thought. No, that is not what sthira buddhi is. Sthira buddhi is a person who has, through logic, is really recognizing everything, and then also recognizes the joy and sorrow, and priyam and apriyam is everything temporary. It comes, today it is there, tomorrow it's not there. And this is truly some, when I came here, I had this beautiful office, actually, really a nice office, which I could, and the office is just below my room. I was in the second floor, the first floor of office. Rains or no rains, no problem. I can just go down and do it, and have the class. And now I have to walk, 7 minutes. I don't know if there are snakes in the road. I don't know. And it's raining, and I have to come early at 5 o'clock itself, set up the office and everything. But who knows? Tomorrow something else will happen, and again things will change. So this is just a practical example I'm giving, but there are much more bigger examples that we have to see it. So everything that comes to us is really a prasad from God, Really, Bhagwan is there teaching us on how to look at this world, but we don't use that examples. So then, after explaining this vision of a realized person and trying to tell us how we have to recognize how our relationship with the sense objects, some things can be priyam, something can be apriyam. Now he explains in Shloka 21 of the reason why we need to really go inward. Why should we do this? How can I really get over my judgment and everything? So here he says, Bahya sparsheshva saktatma. No, if I look at the English, then I get deluded in my mind. Bahya sparsheshva saktatma. Bahya sparsheshva saktatma. Vindatyatmani yat sukham. Vindatyatmani yat sukham. Sabrahma yoga yuktatma. Sabrahma yoga yuktatma. Sukhamakshayam ashnute. Sukhamakshayam ashnute. So here he's saying how this person, priyam and apriyam is only external. And why do we look at priyam? Why do we look at objects which are priyam? Because it gives me happiness, right? But here, this person with whose mind, the mind is independent of external contacts, such a person is independent because he vindati atmani yat sukham. Atmani, within himself, he finds this happiness. And saha brahma yoga yuktatma. And he's constantly engaged in meditation upon that Brahman. And by doing so, he attains endless bliss. So such a person, by focusing only within himself, he or she experiences that total, inexhaustible akshayam. We call this akshaya patra, right? Akshaya patra is one which can give food any amount. I think it was Durvasa Rishi or somebody who went to the forest, and that story which is about Akshaya Patram. So here he's Akshaya Sukham, he's completely inexhaustible happiness is there within himself. For such a person, whether you bring gulab jamun or whether you bring baklava or yesterday we had, now it is Onam festival, by the way, here, And oh my God, Onam festival, the way it is celebrated, 4 days, 3 days holidays, Wednesday, Thursday. So I came here only one day before, thinking that we are going to be here, but it's on holidays. So I'm going to enjoy Onam festival. And amazing, the food and everything. And yesterday there was some fresh holige ubattu that was somebody had ordered all the way from Karnataka. And we have this Vedant Sadhak course going on. Happiness, oh happiness in food and here, But that's what this person is, this shloka is about. It's not about finding that happiness in that, it's a bahya sparsha. That such a person is completely asakta, completely without any attachment, because this person has already found that happiness within himself or herself. So the characteristic of a sannyasi is total independence from all sense objects. Whether it is kirti, where intellectually we look for position to give us happiness, or kanchana, which is possession, whether it's money or gadgets or whatever, or even any kind of pleasure, which I wanted to put this sadhya, they say this literally yella chapad. That's what we've been having, yella chapad every day and things. So total this, again, a Bhajagovindam shloka, which you can see the first 3 shlokas of Bhajagovindam actually talks about all this being completely free. And why should we be totally free of this? Even if you look at it from a mundane example, we find that there is only to a certain extent, we can achieve that fulfillment. After some time, we really don't. There is nothing there. Just like how we give this excess amount of gulab jamun doesn't really give you this. So too, luxuries don't take you anywhere at all, whether it is this. So that person finds that akshaya sukham, that ananda with this, which is himself, is given in this Taittiriya Upanishad. He has that highest ananda, which is, I don't know how many zeros. MHU means 1 unit of human ananda. So this much amount of ananda can be ours. And this is Taittiriya Upanishad is telling us. But we look for that small ananda in that holy ubattu and others, not that I didn't enjoy it. I really enjoyed it, I have to say that. But I also am trying to recognize. So this next shloka, which we will do next week, of course, is again one of the most important shlokas of 5th chapter, which we will do it next week. Okay. So 5th chapter has some really great concepts about our maturity, about recognizing that progress. Sorry, I made a mistake with the date here, but we'll meet on September 14th. I know some of you cannot make it, but that's okay. Sarve bhavantu sukhinaha, sarve santu niramayaha, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschit dukkha bhag bhaved. Om shanti shanti shanti. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Hari Om, everyone. See you.
Maybe you should shut off the recording.
Yes.